We're live.
Yeah,
awesome.
Let's do it. Awesome.
All right.
Let's go. Cheers, baby. Here we go.
Good to be here.
Cheers. It's a big day.
There it is.
Water cooler.
Hey, welcome to the Water Cooler. Water Cooler show about marketing, sales, and technology. Each episode we focus on bringing advice that works. Very special edition of the Water Cooler. I'm bringing on my two fellow best-selling co-authors, Chris Smith and Phil M. Jones. We're going to be discussing our new book, Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. Chris, I know we have a great giveaway for today's show in typical Water Cooler fashion. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, this is my third book launch with the Water Cooler community, with the fans of the show. And so we're going to give the best offer of all time right now, Phil.
That's the plan.
Every person who buys one copy of Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents while we're live, so between now and the end of the hour, we go until 5:30 Eastern, if you buy one copy, you're going to get a free copy signed by all three of us. We're going BOGO for the Water Cooler fans. Now, on the book website, it shows you exactly how to prove that you purchased.
Yeah.
Step 1, buy the book. Step 2, email your receipt. Step 3, submit this form. So when you guys submit the form, what I need you to do is there's an Easter egg in the form.
Okay.
In the line, it says, how many books did you buy? I want you to put how many books you bought and write the word water cooler. That's going to let us know that you were live on the air. It's the only way you would have known about this buy one, get one free, signed by all three authors. But wait, just one more thing. There's one other offer. We are going to give the person who buys the most books while we're live on the air, they are going to get a live coaching call, a live stream over Zoom with the author of their choice. I would recommend choosing Phil. I would recommend choosing him.
Thanks, man.
But in the outside case that you want Jimmy or myself, you can choose which one. We will do a 30-minute live stream coaching for just you and your team. You can patch us into your conference, patch us into your conference room. That is for the grand prize winner who buys the most books. So as people buy 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 copies, John's going to be texting me. We'll give away the grand prize right before the show ends. They'll find out while we're on the air.
Yeah, so guys, for those of you who are fans of the Water Cooler, you guys know Chris, you know his background, you know me, you know my background. For many of you, this is the first time you've ever seen this guy, Phil M. Jones. You're probably wondering why we partnered with him to co-author this book in real estate. So that'd be a good opportunity, Phil, for you to maybe give a little bit of background of who you are, what your experience in sales is, and sort of how we ended up kind of co-authoring a book together for this industry.
Yeah, I guess I'll try and give the shortened down version of the story the best I can. I've been in business since a kid. I started with my first business at 14 years of age. And I started just knocking on the doors of my neighbors, asking them if they wanted their cars washed. By the age of 15, I had a little car washing business that meant that I was making more money than most of my school teachers. Now, I built a few entrepreneurial businesses through my teens, and then at the age of 18, got the offer to go to a big university. Decided to turn that down and get my education in the field. So I became the youngest ever sales manager for a department store group in the UK called Debenhams. From there, I opened a number of stores up and down the country in the UK. Wrote the bulk of the sales training program still used today at a furniture group called DFS Furniture. Former head of retail, head of sales for 2 Premier League soccer clubs. Built a property business that turned over £240 million at its peak on a sales team of 5. What else did I do? Then I started this little training company back in 2008. Me helping independent business owners to really trade out of the recession and overcome some of the difficulties that they faced during those tough economic times. And now my business is very much speaking, training, consulting, and working with people who don't see themselves as salespeople that need to sell for a living. Written now, 7 best-selling books when we insert the new version of Exactly What to Say. Speak all around the world. What we're looking at, 5 continents, 57 countries, about 2 million people, somewhere like that.
Impressive. Is that all you've done?
That's the surface.
Well, the reason we bring that up is people like to look at today. They don't like to look at the past.
Right.
And I know I was in the boiler room calling leads for 10 years, and then the book came out. I know for you, we talk about the violinist in the forward that Jimmy helped write. And then we talk about SpaceX, and we talk about the swimmer. And we talk about these tens of thousands of hours they put in for this one 30-second race. Every 4 years. And so it's fun to talk about the race, but it's important to understand that the practice happened.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. And I just think we don't know as much about your background as we know where you're at today. And a lot of people that watch the show, they want to start with now. And I think at the heart of the book, it's about if you want to master communication, if you want to be the world record holder in sales, you're going to have to put the same time a violinist, a swimmer, or engineer puts in at SpaceX.
Yeah, and I think there's more to it than that as well, is that what often happens is people think it's all hard work, it's grit, it's hustle. It's that if you're prepared to put in that sweat equity into being successful, you'll be successful. And yeah, they're all factors that play into it. Product knowledge is another great factor. Being in the right place at the right time, feeling lucky is a good factor.
Sure.
Maybe getting a leg up for a friend or family member is a good factor. But in the literal thousands of people that I've worked with through all the different industries, is the biggest difference I've ever seen between those that do fine, those that do good, and those that really crush it. Is the ones that crush it, they do know exactly what to say, when to say it, how to make it count. They know that words matter, and they take the time to be able to work on that part of their craft. Because let's be honest, right? Is how many of the conversations do we bump into are truly unique? And my experience has been that more often than not, there's more repetition in types of conversations than there are truly unique ones.
So I want to get to sort of leading up to this book. So now we have a little bit of background about who you are. You talked a little bit about the hours, but I wanted you to share with the audience sort of how Phil M. Jones came into our sort of world. Because
before that, though, real quick, take me back to the retail days.
Okay.
Because what our book covers is the most common, critical, and difficult situations agents face today.
Okay.
What was one of the most difficult situations you faced in retail?
Some of the most difficult situations in retail are remarkably similar to what we face in real estate. They're things like, I need some time to think about it. I want to speak to my partner. Is, I'm really just shopping around. Now's not the right time. Is, I haven't got the time to be able to consider this. I'm just looking. In fact, can we leave it for another day? Like, all of those key friction points that come up as primary objections have existed in almost every industry I've ever worked in. And what I found fun was that the reps I got working in retail, and the reps that I got, particularly in the environment of us in the furniture industry. In the furniture industry, we would have somewhere like 75 closing opportunities per day in a reasonably high ticket transaction, with somewhere like 12 salespeople needing to be able to work through those kind of numbers. So the reps you get through in a short period of time are probably more than what people would get through in a career. That's what we deal with in 12 months.
You can try some new things in that environment.
Yeah, and I think what often happens in a retail environment when you get those reps is everybody's about, like, how do I get the close? Whereas what I'm looking at is to say, how do I improve the efficiencies of that closing process? Because what we have is a finite amount of time. So I was looking at how do we shorten the sales cycle? What do we do to be able to maximize the order value? What do we look to be able to do to say that what happens is I don't just get them happy today, that what they do is they stay happy tomorrow, the next day, the next week, the next month, and then tell their friends. So those conversations start to matter.
Sales efficiency is such an interesting concept, because right now in real estate, the difference between someone who's selling furniture on the floor is they're not the ones behind the scenes assembling the furniture. They're not the ones who are packaging it up and loading it in the truck. In real estate, what ends up happening is you generally have to wear 20 hats. You're the guy who's out there, the girl out there who's out there selling, right? Prospecting new business, but then you got to go out and service that business. So when we talk about sales efficiency, that's actually one of the things that very few coaches and very few people in the industry talk about, is how to be really efficient, because they got to be with the amount of jobs they have.
Well, there's a big misconception, though, as well, that everybody believes there's an infinite amount of opportunity, that you can sell as many as you can sell, and that isn't true, right? We only have so much time in a day. We only have so many opportunities of relationships we can manage. There are only so many showings you can go on. There are only so many open houses you can run on a Saturday. It doesn't matter what it is. We all have a capacity. If you can increase the rate of sale and the efficiency, you increase your capacity just by improving efficiency.
Yeah, I love that. So let's circle back to the sort of Phil M. Jones story with Curaytor, because obviously I remember the moment that you called me up and you said, you've got to watch this guy's video. You've got to read his book. And that moment was that
you've got to listen.
You've got to listen.
So the audio book that's available now, is exactly what to say. Would it be fair to say that it went viral?
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a few months of its life where it existed like many.
Spiral, like slowly viral.
But yeah, it certainly grew at a pace that was beyond or outside of any control that we had. And we did a great job marketing it, got it out, got it in front of a good number of the right kind of people. But what I think happened is people actually listened to the book, or they read the book, they liked the book, and they told somebody else about it. So it reached that magic sphere of influence that we're often trying to get to.
We're all trying to get to that viral coefficient of a book sold equals 2 more sold equals a speaking gig booked.
Well, and more than that equals just a growth in reputation and something that runs on without you needing to show up.
And so I wrote a book on sales that also did really well.
Yeah.
And the sales section is a little bit tucked into the book, section 3, whereas the first half of my book is 2/3 is marketing.
Yeah.
And so I was blown away with the sales part of your book because I teach sales and I teach foundational structures and scripts and processes and when to say, how to say, tone. But I always kind of stopped short at telling people exactly what to say. Because in my experience, at least if you do a couple Google searches for like real estate scripts, it's like, so you're going to say this.
How's the weather?
And then they're going to say this or this. And then if they say this, you're going to say this. And then say this with dramatic tone. Like we saw that this week when we looked up the
Can you do
script.
dramatic tone for me? Just so
I can't. I only got country tone. I don't have dramatic tone. You, my friend, have a dramatic tone. But like, what I learned through that and putting the book out, and Jimmy saw this happen, we told him everything they needed to do, the order they needed to do it, and they said, where's the script? Okay. So you're right that people want to know exactly what to say. Why do you think like most business books, like, because as soon as I heard it, here's what I did, Jimmy. I took notes in my Apple Notes, and then I immediately coached my sales team on it the next day. And the practicality in this industry is usually hidden behind a course.
Right.
Like Grant Cardone is really well known as a sales trainer, but you don't really learn a lot of practical sales advice by maybe watching one of his speeches or even listening to one of his books.
Right.
Like I just felt like it was so crystal clear that you've done the work for real. And it was ideas that were so simple that our team ate it up. Like they started using some of the magic words immediately and it helped them right away. But now what, 6 months, 8 months down the line, they're still bringing a new phrase a week into their language. And there are things that Jeremy does now when he closes. There are things that Charlie asks when he qualifies that they will never say it again a different way. Why are the words so important?
Well, how about we just talk about these scripts things for a second? Is what are some of the reasons that people don't like scripts? I know people like to push scripts on people.
Sure.
On the other side of that push, what are some of the reasons that people are afraid or fearful of a script?
They don't want to sound scripted.
Okay. Which means they don't want to sound what?
Robotic or unattached emotionally. They want to sound like they're in the moment.
Okay. And what are some of the other reasons they don't like scripts?
They're just it's like public speaking. They're just afraid. Like I worked at Dial America. I don't even know if I should admit this. Do you guys know what Dial America is?
I have no idea.
Okay, so that's the company where you cold call the phone book and you sell them a credit card. And if they get the credit card, they get a free flight to Hawaii. You know, you get the free.
You're right. You shouldn't have admitted this.
Listen, I was there for a half a day and I quit because for me to get a sale, there was a 2-paragraph blurb I had to read word for word. And if they interrupted me and I started over, it was illegal, right? Because we needed to get their consent on a recorded line uninterrupted. So that's why I'm afraid of scripts.
Okay. So there's this fear of sounding canned, this fear of sounding robotic. There's this, it's rigid and no two conversations are the
Hard
same.
to remember.
Hard to remember. It doesn't sound like me. All these things seem to come to life when people are forced to script upon them. Also, they sound like they're reading. So it sounds insincere. It sounds like they're lacking. And that isn't the real world. Yet the reality of things is have you ever seen a movie and cried?
I am a crier.
Right, me too. And it was an actor reading a script. So it isn't the scripts don't work. Scripts have had the power to be able to influence people's behavior and thoughts, like 10 to the dozen. The trouble is bad scripts don't work. Or if I give you my script and say, hey, Jimmy, turn up with a British accent, make it sound like this. It's not going to feel great, right? And you're going to mess it up because you can't be present. I recently did an 8-hour broadcast for Audible. It was an Audible original. It was done in one take with a live audience recorded off Broadway. Got to the end of the day and it was me and I had a microphone, a flip chart, and a bar stool with the entire props. No flip chart, like no PowerPoint, no notes. And then he was like, how did you do all of that in the day? They're like, you didn't even have a script. I'm like, I had a script. I said, I didn't see it. I said, I know. It's 1,000 repetitions deep is the script. And the thing is when you know your script, what happens is that you have the ability to be fully present. The thing that people are fearful of is that they're not present. Is having a script means that what you can do is you can show up to the moment and be in the moment because you're not thinking about the thing you need to say. The challenge is if I give you mine. So what the book Exactly What to Say does is instead of giving you the script, it gives you the Legos. It gives you the Legos to play with, to say, go build your script from the Legos. And then what you can do is create something where you know you've got the building blocks that are structurally sound, but you can bring yourself to it and understand the principle that sits behind it. And when you know the principle, the words come to life. If you know the words without the principle, you're struggling.
So my comp for you is a hybrid between Zig Ziglar, because Zig Ziglar truly cared about the person.
You betcha.
And Shakespeare. because
wow.
Well, here's what you may not even know about Shakespeare. Shakespeare invented over 1,100 words. Did you know that?
That's pretty badass.
Yeah, and he actually created words. Now the hack, Scott Stratton, our friend, would love this. Scott Stratton on marketing. Almost 900 of the words were him putting "un" in front of existing words and then becoming a new word. Unreal, unbelievable, unrealistic. So
okay,
but he's credited for that.
Yeah.
So when you presented at our conference, you got a standing ovation like we've never seen. So there is some performance happening.
You bet.
And then you are tapping into a deeply emotional thought for people. At the same time, you're teaching the art of the sale. You're teaching how to close the way Zig Ziglar would. So I think that hybrid is dangerous in a good way.
Yeah, it's like the whole kind of Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility.
Sure.
Right? And I get challenged back on that sometimes through the work. And you write a book called Exactly What to Say, and no doubt you've got a few people that want to call it slimy or snaky oil or suggest you're going to be manipulative in some way.
They said, so just to be clear, for mine,
right?
That was the nice stuff they said about mine.
Okay.
They said that my advice is no different than selling crackheads crack on the street. That was on Facebook publicly, and I didn't even delete it. I was just like, tell me more.
I'm fine with it, because if somebody believes this is manipulative, it tells me more about their mindset than it does my work. So the assumption I'm making in my work is that you're going to use it for good. Yeah. If there is an assumption that something different is going to happen with it, then I'm guessing it's the person's morals that are in question, not the quality of the work. Yeah.
Yeah, real quick, Jimmy. One copy right now, guys. Buy one copy of Exactly What to Say for real estate agents, and the Kindle's available now.
The Kindle is available for pre-order.
For pre-order. Well, they're all pre-ordered.
Correct.
So you're going to pre-order one copy. We are going to mail you a free signed copy just for buying one. So if you buy a copy on Amazon, I think it's 10 to 15 bucks. You're going to get a free copy just for buying one. If you're a broker, you got a ton of agents to give this out to. If you're a team that we work with, you've got buyer's agents to give this to. You're going to want more than one. You're going to want to have one for you. You're going to want everyone on your team to get one. So the offer for water cooler fans only, while we're live on the air only, you guys see the little Facebook red thing? While that's red, we're giving one free book if you buy one book. The submission process is right on the website, Curaytor.com/exactly. Step 1, buy the book. Step 2, send us the email that you bought it. Step 3, claim your bonus. You're going to get a free coaching call with me next Tuesday. You're also going to get the free signed copy. Now, whoever buys the most books while we're live on the air is also getting a free live stream for just you or just your team or company with the author of your choice. So we're looking for maybe a broker watching right now, an MLS watching, maybe a technology company that wants me or Phil to do a live stream that they want to go promote to grow their list.
You bet.
You got us. But you got to buy some books. We're looking for 100 copies, 150 copies purchased while we're live on the air. So everybody that buys one right now gets one free and it gets signed. But whoever buys the most gets the grand prize.
So Phil, you talk about this idea of the role of a salesperson. The way you define that role is very different than the average person. So normally when people think about sales, they think the main job of a salesperson is basically sell something. But you define it in a different way.
Sure. I think there's this misconception, right? That what the majority of salespeople are looking to be able to do is to either push an idea onto somebody or to embellish that idea or that thing with features and benefits, hoping that something might stick. My personal definition of a salesperson is kind of twofold. Firstly, they're a decision catalyst. What their primary role is to help somebody navigate the decision-making process. Simplified further is maybe even see them as a professional mind maker-upper. See, indecision is the thing that stands in the way of progress more than somebody saying no. And success in sales isn't about moving no's to yeses. It's about taking all of those people who are stuck in maybe and moving more of those to yeses. So our skill in asking questions should be really to destroy the option of no. rather than to embellish the option of yes. Take that one stage further, and what selling really is earning the right to make a recommendation. Almost means that you should never, ever say to somebody that you have an idea for them or that you have some advice for them unless you can say these words first. And the words you should look to be able to say first are the words because of the fact that you said. See, because of the fact that you said A, B, and C, is for those reasons what we'd recommend is X, Y, and Z. Now what you're not doing is you're not pushing anything on anybody. You're acting in their interest and not yours.
I love that. So I want to get back though, and this is something that I think our industry struggles with a lot right now, is that they are coached to basically sell, Chris, all day long. Why do you think we felt the need to write this book? Because obviously the book was massively successful on its own.
Sure.
Why do we feel the need to adapt it for real estate? Why now?
Well, real estate's a tricky sale. It has its own jargon and language and sales cycle. And by the way, everything. Software's tricky. Loans are tricky.
There's an emotional attachment towards a real estate purchase, in particular a home buyer more so than an investor, that I think adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah, and we didn't change the magic words. We applied them to the most common, critical, and difficult situations agents face. So as an example, if you're at a listing appointment and somebody says, you know, Phil, we're definitely going to list with you. It's just that the other lady said she'd lower her commission a little bit. Can you match her? That's a very difficult moment. And a lot of people handle that moment wrong. That was back to my opening analogy that I made really poorly. But all of this training and all of these audiobooks and all of these lessons on sales, they are preparing you for that moment. I call it a micro moment. And I think the micro moments are the moments that matter the most.
You bet.
You're not even going to use magic words the whole conversation. But when it's critical and when it's difficult, it's going to help you a ton.
And I think where you see magic words show up in your world is they're like how a carpenter would have certain tools in their toolbox, right? Is they have the things that they use every day, and then they have some specialist tools for specialist scenarios that over a period of time they learn how to master. And what needs to happen for anybody to get confident utilizing these word choices is practice. We rewrote the book with the lens of real estate that's attached to it, yet the principles can be expanded to all areas of life. So my encouragement to anybody in the real estate space is to practice these words outside of real estate to grow your confidence in using the words when you're in real estate mode.
Sure. There's a tendency in sales to sort of overestimate your skills. and it's, I think, comes with the territory, right? And it's been fun for me as a non-salesperson writing a sales book to be able to interact with very different types of salespeople. Chris gave this analogy when he was explain the difference between him and Phil. He called himself, he's the Mike Tyson of sales, and Phil is the Floyd Mayweather of sales. I think it's a pretty accurate description. But I think some people watching right now...
What makes you say that?
Makes me say that you're the Mike Tyson of sales?
What makes you say it's an accurate description?
Your style is more aggressive, more direct, more let me make sure that I'm heard. And Phil is more of a let me lure them in, and before they realize it, I'm counterpunching.
Yeah, he's a counterpuncher.
Yes.
And I'm a right hooker.
Yes. It worked. I'm not saying
both styles work.
Yes.
I want to pick up on something else that you just said. So Jimmy says there proudly, like, I'm a non-salesperson, right? Like, this is like a badge of honor.
I did not say that proudly, right? I just
chest puffs up a little.
No, that's not true.
Right? But let's play with this for a second. Is there's this misconception towards what being a salesperson is. And if I ask people to reach for like adjectives that would describe a stereotypical salesperson, like you guys, like shout me some words. What do people think of when they think of a salesperson?
Jeremy? Outgoing.
Stereotypical though.
Pushy.
So think about
greedy.
The preconception for many. Greedy, right? Self-centered.
Yeah. What'd you say, Lauren?
Confident.
Yeah,
cocky, obnoxious.
Right? And see this list of words.
They're afraid to say answers right now.
Right? That was salespeople, not me.
You see that list of words, right? If that list of words is used to describe you, my guess is it doesn't make you feel too good.
Sure.
What happens though if I ask you guys not to describe a stereotypical salesperson, but instead to describe a professional salesperson? What kind of adjectives do you reach for now? Charismatic. Consultative.
Expert.
Yeah.
Professional.
Yeah, went the extra mile.
Yeah.
Right.
Caring. Thoughtful.
Thoughtful.
Yeah.
Empathetic. And isn't it interesting, right? Is if somebody used those words to describe you, how would that make you feel? Jimmy's like,
I'm a salesperson now officially.
But look at that scenario, right? What did I do? Is I changed one word. I asked you to describe a stereotypical salesperson, you jump to this list of words. I asked you to describe a professional salesperson, you jump to a different set of words.
Yeah.
So I changed one word, they changed them all. I wonder what happens if you change just single words in your email headlines, in your copy that you write, in the conversations that you have with your clients. My guess right now is that everybody even listening into this live stream gets asked a question on a regular basis that is some form of red hot lead inquiry, that is a question from a prospect that they respond to with sabotaging language.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain.
What do you think the style and format of people respond? And I love what you just said there. And I think it's absolutely true. I'm going to start calling myself a professional salesperson now. But I love the idea of when people respond to an objection, what is the typical sort of quintessential response to an objection? Because this is something I think people naturally will define themselves as a great salesperson, but they fall into this trap all the time.
Okay. Well, let's just apply some context around this. Firstly, from a people point of view, right? You're a happily married man, right? Is if your wife goes out and gets hit on by another guy,
happens all the time,
right?
Yeah.
And where is your feeling about this?
Well, you know, if I'm being honest, yeah, it doesn't make me feel great.
But you also know that you got this and she got this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in my situation, that would be true, right? So this feeling of actually when something comes under threat, of you being like, this is not a threat. I don't need to get aggressive back towards this situation. There is no real issue. This is something that we're in control of, is where I want more people to feel when an objection comes. What typically happens is an objection comes, people get all flustered, people think something needs to happen, they start throwing down, and then this becomes a fight. What really should happen is, I got this. I mean, let's think for a second. In a real estate transaction or a real estate negotiation, who's the more experienced party?
The real estate agent.
At least should be, right?
Yeah.
At least should be. So an objection is faced. What we're really looking to say is how do we control the conversation from here? Typically an objection is raised and the immediate response back is to tell the person they're wrong. Now, I don't care how they tell the person they're wrong. They just do that in one of 100 different ways. Whereas the first thing we should look to be able to do is to deflate it. If you do nothing other than treat an objection as a question, the key next step that you would make is to say, how do I get back in control of the conversation? It's the person who's asking the questions that's in control of the conversation. So instead of an answer to the objection, what you need is a question to the objection that puts you back in control. What we now do is we deflate, and instead of having this happen, what we should be looking to say is how do we overcome this together?
Yeah. And when you say overcoming it together, do you feel that most instances real estate agents are hoping as opposed to planning for an objection? They're hoping that the objection is not raised.
Right. Well, everybody hopes that an objection is not raised, right? We all wish that life was easy, but it doesn't work that way. And I also think what we should be considerate of is that they're allowed to raise objections.
Yeah, it's a good thing, is what you're saying.
Well, not even necessarily a good thing. It's just a thing. Right? It's a complex transaction. There are a lot of moving parts. There's emotion laced into this too.
Yeah.
There is then also acceptance, particularly in the real estate industry, that your reputation sucks. So let's be real about that people are coming into these situations already fearful of the fact that their salesperson alarm is going off. And if we can own that and understand that it's okay for them feeling uncomfortable about certain sets of circumstances, then what we can do is we can coach them or guide them through to the right solution, as opposed to tell them what they're thinking is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a big crowd here. I just want to say thank you guys for coming in. Jeremy, can you grab us another beer? We've got appetizers, Phil. This is a big day. Jimmy, congrats on your first book. Give it up for Jimmy. Jimmy's first book.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Now, on a side note, we are taking the book on the road.
You bet.
We are going all over the country. We're going to Miami. We're going to Atlanta. We're going to California. We're going everywhere. Phil's going on his own tour. We're doing joint appearances. Jimmy and I are doing appearances. Phil alone is doing appearances. And normally, to bring us into your conference to speak for 30 minutes or an hour on stage, it's pretty pricey. You know, you're talking about $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for some of these options to bring us in to speak. And instead, right now, you could actually buy 10 books. Right now, 10 books gets the live stream with the author of their choice.
Is that it?
Right now, it is 10 books.
I might buy it.
I might do it too. Yeah, for $150, I would opt out of the appearance. So if you are watching and you're a real estate team, a broker, you're just a top agent that just wants to pick Phil's brain for 30 minutes one-on-one, right now, 10 books will get you the live stream. We'll keep that number updated. We've got about 20 minutes left. We've got hundreds of people buying the copy. So thank you guys that are buying one, but the grand prize is still definitely grabbable.
I want to jump on something that is why we did this book in real estate as well, right? Is I had a successful book where 500,000 copies sold. It's already a runaway success by itself. Why do a bespoke edition for an industry of this kind of nature? And I've always had this idea of the fact that how do we customize and personalize this for industry? Is taking the core book and simplifying it. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yes.
Is simplifying it down to the fact that it had universal language on it was real tough.
Yeah.
I always wanted to expand it a touch and say, how do we add more to this? How do we bring some new magic words in? How do we actually do the pieces that are more specialized towards key industries? But my fear was always who to do it with and how to do it right. And when I spoke at Curaytor conference last year, it was just that this is a community full of people that do stuff right. And when it came to the idea of saying, hey, let's do the book, and I explained to you the amount of work it would take to be able to do it right.
Yeah.
We need to consult with agents. We need to get people together. I need to understand with certainty. This isn't like a, hey, how do we do a search and repeat and swap phrase of like customer to, you know, to agent, etc. It's actually, how do we do it really well? You guys were like all in and said, okay, let's bring people together and make this something that is a flagship piece. And isn't just like a lipstick on a pig type scenario. It's
well,
really...
what I appreciated about the way you approached that was you wanted to work with us, but you weren't necessarily concerned with us telling you the situations agents face.
Right.
Because we're not agents. We're software guys that work with agents. We're consultants and authors and gurus, whatever you want to call us, that work with agents. So the most fun part of this for me so far, and it's been a lot of fun overall. But the most fun part was we went to Boston for 8 to 10 hours, and we brought some of the top agents in the world into that private setting. And you were able to basically extract from them the moments that money was on the line.
Right. And we jammed it out in a workshop, and we tested principles against them, and then they took those principles and applied them in the field and came back on what worked. And then we looked at the resistance and the friction points. Like this has been something that I can sit here and today and believe that what we've created is a really useful tool. Right? Like this isn't world changing. It just could be world changing for anybody who puts this stuff into practice. That's where it's really going to show.
What did you learn going through that process of sitting down? Because I remember that moment in Boston. It was whatever in February, and we were sitting there. It's freezing out. We brought the agents in, and we spent basically 10 hours with them. And we've been in this industry now for collectively between me and Chris over 20 years. I felt like I knew this industry, and then I walked out of that meeting feeling I just got my PhD in real estate. So what was your experience kind of sitting down face to face with those agents, them sharing those real world experiences, and also how they handled some of those objections?
Yeah, I think my first big takeaway from it is the number of agents who think they're better than they really are. Like that was a big thing. Like it took a period of time to get people to be able to open their mind up and actually truly be coachable. And I mean coachable in its purest of sense, not coachable to accountability, coachable to thought changing. But the other realization is just how much of an impact is made out of conversations. Like real estate agents work 95% of the time for free. You know, in activity that is going to lead to nothing today. But could lead to something significant later down the tracks. And knowing how repetitive those conversations were was money. And
the self-awareness was through the roof that day. And that was my takeaway, Jimmy, was that they were willing to admit where they were struggling. And these were really successful agents. Some of them were newer. Some were broker owners, some were teams. We wanted to get a good mixture. Some were from Compass, some were boutiques. Some were from Keller Williams, some were, you know, a year in. So we wanted to get a mix of agents, but there were some successful people there. And what my big takeaway was, wow, people struggle in the dark. You know what Eric Thomas said when he came to our conference is he said, what we do in the dark is who we are in the light.
Here's what was fun as well as a big takeaway. You know, everybody came in and their eyes were down and they're like, yeah, well, what there are is there's these like online platforms going direct to consumers and there's these discount brokers that are showing in town and really they had a vibe about them. Like, it's not fair. Like, it's not fair. Why can't we have it how it used to be? And they left with like chest puffed out, eyes up, thinking, I got this. Knowing that what they were going to do tomorrow is have the ability to be able to differentiate themselves. It's not that those guys are cheaper. They now knew how to be able to demonstrate that they're not cheaper. It's just that they're different. And let me explain our differences.
Yeah, my takeaway through that experience was how hard their job is.
It's hard.
Meaning, like, I think when we think about coaching for our clients, we think about sort of the very first part of the stage, which is the lead generation, lead conversion. But then the most difficult conversations they had were actually servicing. We're dealing with like an angry seller calling them saying, "Why isn't my house sold?"
Yeah.
Right? Why haven't had any showings?
Sure.
You know, I don't want to reduce my price. Like that to me was a world that I was just sort of completely, because once we get them the deal, our job's done.
Right.
But that's really where the real work starts for them.
Yeah, it was fascinating to hear some of those stories.
And to hear, like, these are people that really care, right?
Yeah.
They give a damn. They want to deliver on the promise that they had in the listing presentation. They want to be able to follow this through and exceed expectations. But there does hit points of friction. And I think to be able to show up and know how to be able to navigate those conversations is a big thing. And to be able to protect their own self-confidence.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you do find yourself in sticky situations and you go home and think, I wish today was different.
Yeah.
If you can say, was it me? And was it something I could have done differently? Or was it just a victim of circumstances? You can maintain high levels of confidence, pick yourself up tomorrow and go another great day, as opposed to one bad client ruining your month.
Yeah, I remember Lisa that came from Compass. She said, I wonder how many listings I missed out on as a young agent because I didn't know the right words.
She messaged me like on Instagram 2 days ago saying something real similar to that as well about the differences made from the workshop.
Exactly. And that for us is what's gratifying.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to do one thing real quick. I want the Orlando crew, come over here for a second. We've got the audience cam up. We've got the audience cam. So Jimmy, we are live around the world, but we brought the staff in. If you guys want to say what's up, I wanted John to cut to the shot. We got Jenny here, Brittany, Annette, Lauren, Logan, Amber, Hunter, on me. Rich has been working the AV equipment all day. Annette's over here. Jeremy's in here as well. Jeremy's got his tuxedo on. His half tux.
You guys are live now.
One of our awesome marketers and interns. So, you know, they came out. We're celebrating. This is a big day for us.
Yeah.
And if you buy one book right now, you can get a book for free. You get a book. You get a signed book. There are 8 minutes left to take advantage of that. 8 minutes from now, that offer goes away forever. The buy one, get one free is for water cooler fans only. And John is updating me on the bulk order. At this point, the bulk order, we're still going to do it ourselves. So if we don't have somebody step up in the next 5 minutes and order 100 books or 50 books, I'm taking the grand prize off the table. We need people that are ready. Now, I know you're watching live and you're enjoying the show, but take 5 minutes right now, buy 50 books, buy 75 books. This is a very, very cool opportunity to get Phil to do a live stream for just you or just your team. Imagine how much better your business will be after you spend 30 minutes talking about how this logic can apply to your conversations.
Yeah. In the book, we have 31 magic words.
Yeah.
And in the book, we have a field guide that covers about 80 situations that agents are going to come into, critical, common, and difficult situations. What I want you to talk a little bit about right now is how does one, because they're going to read the book, Phil, they're going to love it, they're going to immediately want to apply it, but at the exact same time, they're not necessarily going to know the best way to sort of, you know, eat the elephant in one bite. Right. So how do you go from reading, consuming, and loving to putting it into practice in the real world?
That's a great question. And you don't get it done in an afternoon. That's for certain. Is what I would encourage anybody to do whilst reading the book is firstly is read it slowly. It's a short read, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should race towards the finish.
Sure.
What I've learned through the original book is what the majority of people do is they read it through to the finish line and then think it's time to start again.
Yeah.
And they come back at it with a pad and paper. I wouldn't want anybody to think about anything other than two things. One, what were 3 of the most important conversations they had in the previous 7 days? And how would what they could have learned from the book affected their ability to be able to get different results in those past 3 conversations? The other thing I want them to think about is what are 3 important conversations they're having tomorrow? And how can they take some of what they just learned and use it to tweak, adapt, or evolve the way they were going to approach or consult one of those 3 conversations? Do that.
Yeah.
And then do the same again on the Thursday. And then do the same again a week later after that. And
well, you mentioned when you spoke, you had this, like, it was in your like speaker agreement, because we have a beautiful workbook. If somebody can find me a Curaytor workbook really quick, if there's one around, bring me a workbook. But we have like a freaking, I get pissed every year because they do this massive workbook and it costs a ton of money, but it's part of what makes excellence excellent.
It is beautiful.
And you said I want 1 page for notes. And I'm like, dude, I took a lot of notes when I listened to your book. Why do you, the way you framed it that day was don't write it down if you're not going to do it for sure.
Right. And this is what happens, right? We've all been on conferences, we've all read books, and we come away from the end of it like, I'm going to do everything.
Yeah.
And then you got to look back at your phone, or you get back to your email, get back to your desk, and you do nothing.
Yeah.
And what I'd rather that happens is people decide to do 2 or 3 things and implement them, but know they did 3 things out of 400. Do the 3 things, get some momentum, and say, now what?
Yeah. The whole theme of Phil M. Jones is, I think, this idea of being very selective about what you work on, what you spend your time on, what you put your energy into, because you keep saying there isn't infinite resources. I only have this amount of time, so I'm going to choose wisely. And that actually is more of a mindset thing than anything else. Because in real estate, there is a desire to just keep growing at all costs. And as a result, you're sort of not really, as Chris has said, 95% of your time is basically spent doing the work. Maybe you said that was doing the work with for free, basically.
And there's a bigger mindset issue that I think that exists in this industry and many others. There's this like big culture that's like, go for it. You can be the best. Here is best practice. Here is the best you can be. Be your best self. This best line. And if I ask a room full of people whether they want to do good at something, whether they want to do better at something, or whether they want to do their best at something, everybody in the room says they want to do their best.
Yeah.
Which is a stupid belief.
Yeah.
A flat out stupid belief. Because actually, when you say the words, I tried my best, more often than not, you're lying. When you've said the words to somebody else, you were trying your best. Again, that was a lie. So what we've learned to believe, the best is not a real place. It's like this utopian position that doesn't really exist. There might have even been a time in your life where you struggled with something and proclaimed something like, I was trying my best. Maybe it was tying your shoelaces. And you like said to your parents, like, I was trying my best. And it isn't until you get to the point of focusing on better, the best gets surpassed. So what everybody should be looking at, and particularly through the work in exactly what to say, is to say, how do I use this to get better? And I think there's a fear in things like this, and it's the fear that gets attached to scripts and many of the other principles that people teach is like, here is best practice. And if you can't deliver best practice right, then what you are is a failure. Therefore, you feel like a failure and you behave like one. If we give people permission to work on being better, what they do is they celebrate a win. They then compound that win with another win. And then what they do is they become a proven success story, which is where confidence comes from, which means that what they then end up doing is feeling like a winner and winning more often.
Winners win and losers lose. That was another Eric Thomas saying.
There you go.
He's got some good ones.
Write them down.
They're powerful.
Write them down.
His delivery is great. So the thing you just made me think of, I saw Seth Godin present one time. And he's a master of marketing. And he looked at the crowd, and we can try this. I'm going to try this with you guys. Humor me. Okay, let's cut to the audience cam, John. And I'm going to try the Seth Godin trick. And it really comes down to your best or your better. I want you guys really quickly, raise your hand as high as you can. Now raise it higher. So there shouldn't have been a higher if you were raising it as high as you can. And everybody always has that little bit more. I thought it was just a really powerful, simple way to say, we're not doing our best. Like one of the other speakers is Jesse Eitzler this year. And he had a Navy SEAL live with him. And he said he had never done a pull-up. And then he said 90 minutes later, he had done 90 pull-ups. And he's like, man, if I'm leaving 90 pull-ups on the floor, what else am I leaving on the floor in my life? So those are a couple of things that come to mind when you talk about better is better than best. But we limit our potential.
Correct. It becomes a ceiling, and we created it for ourselves.
Yeah. And just really quick, we've got an update. We had Michael Bradley order 10. So thank you, Michael Bradley. But then Jimmy, longtime colleague and friend, Darren Persinger.
All right, Darren.
Ordered 30 copies of exactly what to say. So let's give it up for Darren. Definitely now I'm not buying my own appearance.
You know why 30 is the number that he hit? Is that's what Amazon, I think, will allow you to order as a maximum.
Nice.
So you might be placing another order.
You know what? There's a button. Let me be really clear, Darren, or whoever's watching. There's a button right there. When you go to drop down 30, there's a weird little button right there. That says, I need more than 30. Use that button. You've got 5 minutes left. As of right now, 30 is the winner. 31, Reggie Miller. One up them. Double it to 60. You go to 60, you're probably winning for sure. We've got 3 minutes left. Michael Bradley. Michael Bradley's at 10. He's 21 away from winning. So how bad do you want it? I remember you said, hey, who wants this book?
Right.
And you just stood there.
Yeah.
And no one came. And eventually a lady came running and grabbed it.
From the back.
And she wanted it more than anyone else. Who wants this opportunity more than anyone else? Michael Bradley? Is it going to be Darren Persinger? We'll find out soon.
I will just add, like, I had the opportunity following the end of Curaytor event last year to spend some one-on-one time in like a 30-minute session with a small group of agents from J Marks' team.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And in that session, what we ended up just being able to unpack so people could understand what we might be able to achieve in a session together is we managed to be able to deconstruct their key and critical conversations in open houses. We managed to realize how what they were doing was repelling more potential buyers and sellers with the way that they were asking for information when it came to the sign-in sheet. And that thing alone, he was like, that was worth showing up for, that one thing alone.
Sure.
Yeah. And we looked at like dozens of situations that they were in real life with buyers and sellers at that moment in time and turned things that were keeping them up at night into things that actually fueled them to go to work in the next moment.
Yeah, it's almost like you go from hating doing an open house to looking when your next one is because you get a new at bat.
Right.
You know, you kind of get to try again. And it was funny, like even Susanna in Boston, she's like, I'm sending that right now. She didn't want to wait for the break.
Yeah, she was in it, right?
Yeah, because we were talking a lot about one of the cool things in the book that wasn't in the original is we're a marketing company. We turned all the magic words into templates for social media, email, and text messaging. So people can literally take these phrases or these words and turn them into a website campaign, a Facebook campaign, turn it into an email you send your past clients. That was one of my favorite parts was words are words.
When we did the flip around of some subject lines on emails, what were the results differences?
Yeah, well, we started seeing basically instantly people improving the open rate by 30, 50, 70% by just using magic words in the actual email subject line. And it was directly a result of basically getting people to, at least in my opinion, start thinking. And that's what maybe the beauty of what we're doing here is by asking people questions, you force them to sort of think or challenge their position, which then can actually start a conversation. Let me ask one last thing. One of my favorite parts of this whole experience was me, Phil, and Chris ended up recording the book at the Audible studio in New York City. And there was a moment where we did the field guide, where Chris and Phil went into the booth to go through the role play. And if you guys are gonna listen to this section over and over again, because in that moment, you guys covered 79 of the most common, critical, and difficult conversations that agents have. My question is really simply this, Chris, and then we'll end with you, Phil, is like, when you get this right, what happens? So paint me a picture when you're able to actually begin applying these words every day the right way. What happens to your business? What happens to your sales reps? What begins to sort of happen when you get it right?
Magic. It really is a magical feeling when you know what to say, when to say it, and how to make it count. It's a new normal. You truly go from being the sleazy salesperson to the pro. You know, it's funny because I'm really good at sales and I'm really easy to sell. And that's because I appreciate a great pitch. And a great pitch is great questions. And great questions use great words. Like what is the sort of questions create this
conversations that build relationships that create opportunities that lead to sales.
That's what happens, Jimmy, because when you get better at the conversation, I want you to think about communication and the words as the champagne glass on top of the tower. And when you get that right, it flows into everything you do. Marketing, sales, service, referrals, reviews, like it sort of permeates throughout the organization. And so just like with the conversion code in many ways, you know, we would use sales tactics in the service process. Hey, I've got some information about Curaytor. Grab a pen and paper. I want to make sure you get the most out of this customer service call. And that was normally a sales technique. And I find myself, you know, talking with my wife or talking with a colleague or talking with my son and saying, oh, I hate this class. What makes you say that, Lucas? You know, I love the dance. You know, I'm bad at dancing, Jim. And most people are bad at selling. And I don't know what happens when you get good at dancing, but I've always wanted to know.
Well, here's what happens is if we're to simplify and build on Chris's analogy there, is you learn how to lead the dance. That's what happens. And that's the feeling that you end up left with, is actually when somebody comes to dance, you learn how to lead. And what you can do is you can create a beautiful experience. Now, my wife is a talented dancer. My mother-in-law was a professional dancer. And trust me, I've been led at dancing and I've looked brilliant without doing a single thing. And that's what happens when you feel in complete control with your ability to be able to utilize words to steer a conversation, is that you can find yourself in any moment and you can control it towards a predetermined outcome. And that doesn't mean you're always going to win. It means you can control it towards a predetermined outcome that when you lose, you knew that nobody could have got that result. And that's a good thing. Like your head can hit the pillow and say, that wasn't business to be done today.
Yeah.
Or it certainly wasn't my business.
Yeah.
And then you walk away proud.
Yeah. On that note, Chris.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Congratulations. I'm actually going to do a Phil Jones special, Phil M. Jones special, which is win-win.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to give Michael Bradley and Darren Persinger the live stream.
All righty.
So whoever they want to choose, they can choose one, and then the other two are available for the other.
Choose Chris.
Yes, no, that was not first of all, Michael Bradley, that's a different conversation about soccer. There's very few people that care about that, so I won't go down that.
Okay.
But Michael Bradley, Jimmy.
Is this a photo finish right now?
This is actually, you know what I'm going to do? We have a tie. So Michael Slusser just bought 10. So now it's Michael Bradley. Jimmy, Paul just bought 10. Okay. So let's do this. I'm going to do this. We're going to end it here.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the 10s.
What are we going to do?
We're going to take the 10s and we'll do a collective Zoom live stream for the 10s.
Okay.
And then we'll do the one-on-one with.
Perfect. I love this.
Yeah.
So Michael, and Paul, you're getting a live stream for your teams with either Phil, me, or Jimmy. And then Darren, for buying 30, he'll get a dedicated live stream. That feels like a fair deal.
Yeah.
Guys, give it up for Phil. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Pleasure to see you. Guys, the book is called Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. It's going to be a huge hit. It comes out September 30th. Please buy a copy today. Submit your pre-order bonuses. There's great bonuses. We're going to be on the road. We'll keep you guys posted. Cheers. Thanks to our staff for showing up. Thanks for the AV team. Cheers. Here's to a great water cooler. Thanks, everyone.